Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Superman and Lois, Season 4, Episode 9. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. The penultimate episode of the series. We're picking up with the world now knowing about Clark being weaker than what he was. Obviously, Lex got the scans from John's suit and was able, well, Milton probably did, but obviously Lex now put that out there. So now the world knows Superman isn't what he used to be. And now it's a situation of, well, not only are you making it so that anyone that wants to get back against Superman, as well as any future villains that pop up, are going to want to get their get back against him because of that. And knowing that, oh, Superman isn't what he is, we could always try, gun for him. I mean, once again, he's also already admitted that he's died, so that already puts an even bigger target on his back. And now that him and his family are out, like, puts a target on all of them. So, and obviously John's coming from the perspective of, yo, we've always, like, you've always, like, not dealt with stuff, dealt with it. We should, like, deal with Lex. But he's like, no, I already made that mistake of handling stuff. I played right into Lex's hand. I stooped to his level. We knew that at the time, but now it's even worse now, recognizing how he could use it against me. It's like, I should have never done that, and I'm not going to let you guys make that same mistake. But for John and Jordan, it's like, because your powers are weakening, let us help you. But he's like, I don't want that, because it's like, he's scared, because it's like, I don't want you, like, there's this powerful moment he has with his mom later, with Laura, that I thought was like, for him, it's like, I'm their father. I'm supposed to protect them, and I couldn't, and I still can't. Like, in the future, I won't be able to protect them. But his mom had to remind us, like, you have their entire lives. You got them up to this point. You kind of just have to, like, have faith in your sons. But the problem is, because of what they are, genetically, they will never be able to be what Clark was at his peak. Because of being half human, genetically, they'll never be able to match him in that capacity. But as we've discussed, like, previously, and I brought it up before, and this episode really emphasizes the element of they have each other. And I love that they really hammered that home, because I'm like, we know that Clark's the only superhero in this world, so he's handled a lot of stuff on his own. And he talks about it. He's like, I trained on my own. I went to do saves on my own. But John and Jordan, like, even during their training, what was Clark doing? He was having them fight the version of John Henry Irons, like when he first came here in season 1, trying to kill him. It's like, yeah, he actually came pretty damn close. And it's like, yeah, that was me at my peak. So it's like, right, if you and Lex now having that suit, you've got to be right. That was me at my best, and I almost got by John Henry Irons. We've got someone who is, souping up the suit in Milton, but also someone who is just as determined as John Henry Irons was about killing Clark. I mean, to be fair, like, John Henry Irons had all the reasons to kill Clark. Just his vendetta against the Superman from his world and everything, and losing Lois, and just their world in general being in the state it was. But there's also the element of, well, Lex has wanted Superman dead for a lot longer than John Henry Irons did, so that hate runs super, super deep. So when it's all said and done, though, like I said, they're just not ready handling it one at a time. But it's like, right, you both might not be as strong as Superman in his peak, but you have each other, and that can compensate and make all the difference. Also, like, we haven't tested it, but because we know Jordan he's not as adverse to kryptonite as Clark, Jordan is not as adverse to kryptonite as Clark is, we can assume Jonathan's in the same boat. So, like, when Lex is later on having the suit outfitted to have, like, kryptonite this and that, it's like, yeah, that'll work against Clark, but what does that mean against John and Jordan? Because it's like, that kryptonite won't slow them down. At least it'll, knock them down a peg, but, like, not to the extent that it would, like, immobilize Clark. I mean, even he was able to push through it sometimes, but that kind of took, like, sheer will and just being at it for so long that he's gotten to that point that he had, I guess, built up some slight natural resistance to really push himself through it. But they have a natural born resistance, where it probably only affects them 50% as much as it would Clark. Either way, that's just, I mean, kind of going on that whole diatribe. But so all that's happening. The boys are also kind of like, right, the whole celebrity of it's kind of kicking up even more so. People outside the diner, it's like, let's sit at the bar. It's like, holy crap, there's a French dip named after Jonathan. Jordan's got the curly fries on the kids menu. And also Lois has a special tea named after her. And there's all this Superman merchandise around. And it's like, well, Superman was already a big thing. But now it's like, well, you know, now Smallville's going to be even more of a tourist attraction. So you're like, that's kind of weird. Having, you know, this is the new reality of it all. But it's like, it's still kind of weird and awkward. Going back really quickly, I actually was not expecting the conversation Clark ended up having with Lois to play out the way it did, where she was like, right, stop focusing on what the boys can't do and focus on what they can do. Because she was like, your parents have been wrong about stuff in the past. They said you were going to have kids. He's like, yeah, but this is a little different. There are just limitations to what they can do. But the reason why I brought that up is because of the conversation he had with his mom, where it's like, Laura said, like, right, we tried into the very end to try and save Krypton until we couldn't. We accepted our fate, and we decided, like, to do what was best for you. We tried to protect you. And he's like, you did. You sent me here. So I thought that was kind of implying, like, it almost felt like Laura saying, like, you might have to send your kids away. But it's like, well, to be fair, they're out into the world. So there's no, like, you'd have to go super, super deep underground to kind of avoid all this, like, but I felt like that's the direction that was potentially going. Like, Clark was going to have them leave so he could protect them that way. I felt like that was the direction things were going, but ended up not being the case. He decided to take on their training himself, which was actually really a sweet moment. Like, you know, him like, yeah, come at me, boys. You know, he's like, oh, you guys, you know, try to actually hit me. He's like, are you guys actually trying? And just looking at his watch, he's literally tossing them in directions. It's like, yeah, it might not be at his peak, but he's still like, you know, showing you whippersnappers a thing or two, which is kind of fun, because I don't think it's often they get to do stuff like that, and you get to just do it out in the open. You don't have to go all the way to the Fortress of Solitude. You know, there's always a thing of like, people are, holy, you know, there's always a chance that someone could come across you guys doing your training montage or whatever. But I just thought that was beautiful, and just his kids charging at him, and you see the smile on Clark's face. It's like, yeah, it's kind of this beautiful moment. So all of that's happening, and earlier in the episode, because Amanda came to visit Lois because she's like, right, we're suing you for defamation. It's like, but Lois is like, I have the truth on my side. And I love Amanda be like, you think people care about the truth? Basically, and this is obviously commentary in the world as it is. On all sides, we do this, where it's like, hey, we take the information that agrees with our point of view and our perspective, and we double down. We never like are willing to reach across the aisle. I mean, it's not always the easiest thing sometimes, because some people on some sides can be very outlandish. I mean, people can, once again, there are extremes on every side, and it makes it harder to like reach over the aisle to be like, hey, let's meet in the middle, you know, type of situation. So but yeah, like the whole notion of like, yeah, there's truth in what Amanda says, but also it's like, yeah, because I mean, there's a larger commentary too, where it's like, hey, this thing was put out here. Oh, it was a lie. How many people saw that it was a lie? It's like, not many people. Because like rarely do you, even when you retract something, you're like, oh, actually I was wrong. How many people are actually going to see that retraction and that correction? So it, you know, that's, even if you correct yourself, not everyone's always going to see it, because that's not always going to get the most eyes. It might get a fraction of the eyes that the other thing. So it's an interesting commentary, especially because we find out like Lois is suffering the ramifications of the Godfrey interview, because now it's like people are pulling ads off of the Smallville Gazette, and it's like, she's like, yeah, people believe me, but they don't want to be associated with me, which is like, oh, that's a whole thing in itself, where it's just like, oh yeah, no, behind the scenes I support you 100%, but publicly I can't be seen supporting you because that's going to impact our business. So I'm like, oh, Jesus, you know. So it's kind of like, you know, it's like, oh, having your cake and eating it too. It's like, no, we want to keep this relationship alive, just that when you're back on the upswing, we can revisit this. We don't want to burn any bridges right now, but we you know, so that whole thing, trying to save face. But anyway, so because of this whole situation, Clark, it's like, right, Lex is doing everything he can to get inside of their head. So it's like, right, let's take an opportunity to get inside of his. So Clark shows up as Superman in front of Lex and just comments on like, oh yeah, like interesting. Like the way you've been coming at me, he's like, that doesn't feel like that's you. It feels like, huh, that's Amanda. This doesn't seem like it's your plan. You've changed, you've shaved, you put a suit on? Sure, that was all her idea, huh? And just like he's going on about like how like, oh, I'm gonna Lex is like, oh, I'm going to rip everything apart that you love, your family, everything. I'm going to strip everything away from you like I ripped out your heart. And just Clark is trying to keep his composure and just kind of smiles. And it's just like, well, enjoy your freedom while it lasts, Lex. And then I love the whole, just a little button on top, just being like, nice tie. And it takes off. I'm like, I like Superman and his dick being a douchebag bag. I was like, once again, Lex deserves all the smoke, obviously, but him taking off the suit because he's an angry person. Now, the glimpses we've seen of Lex in flashbacks, he is not as angry. But once again, he is a man that went to prison for 17 years for something he didn't do. Once again, you still deserve to rot for all the things you did do. But yes, you went to prison for the one crime you didn't commit. So he was vengeful, but once again, we also see like the upbringing he had. It resulted in that anger's always there. It's just being in prison amplified what was already there. Like you come from an abusive home and stuff like that, so it's like his resentment towards the world has always been there, and that's kind of made him turn inwards and always look out for number one himself. So. But you can tell, like, the boat was already kind of a little shaky because of his conversation with Clark. And he was like, Amanda, here are your shares. You're the second most shareholder of LexCorp behind me. So you're going to be one of the richest women in the world type of thing. And then they kissed for a moment, but you could tell Amanda was almost like, wait, what? Like, he was almost kind of like trying to distance himself from her even in that moment. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to go see Milton. She's like, okay, what? So, and Lois had she was frustrated because Amanda had revealed to her that Cheryl was dead. It's like, no, we caught up with her and she's been taken care of. And it's like, okay, so our only other lead is gone. But Clark had her remember. It's like, yeah, what was the beginning of chapter 7 of your masterclass? She's like, Clark, he's like, come on, do it. It's my favorite part. Just say it once. And basically, it's like kind of look at things from the beginning, and she did that. So she goes and talks to Bruno Mannheim, which I'm glad we got to see Chad L. Coleman one more time. It was like, oh, that's really dope. And it's this really beautiful moment they have where it's like, he's like, oh, you're looking healthier. She's like, yeah. I'm not. The doctor doesn't want to go as far as saying I'm cancer free, but I'm done with my treatments. And he's like, good. She's a great doctor. I'm happy for you, and I'm sure Pia would be too. She's like, yeah. I wouldn't have gotten through chemo if it wasn't for Pia being such a good friend to me. And he's like, I know that would mean a lot to her, but it also means a lot to me to hear that. But it's like, all right, let's get down to brass tacks. The Luther of it all, as they show in the recap. Pia was like, yo, do not let him out. You will regret it. And he's like, Pia tried to tell you, and you underestimated the devil. Because it's a situation of you kind of unleashed Luther on the world, and now you only care because it's personally affecting you. Because he makes the whole comparison to South Metropolis. He's like the Suicide Slums is what it's called, and he's like, you and Superman never took notice of it until it became part of your purview. You guys have had your and that was a whole point last season of like, yes, like you did not notice how bad things were here. I became the hero to the Suicide Slums. I didn't always go about it the best way, but I looked after my community. Because he was like, the same thing Lex is doing to your family is what he was doing to the South Metropolis. You and Superman are only taking notice now, once again, because it's affecting you personally. And it's just like, Lois is like, right, me and Clark, we will be better about this going forward, And it's like, we made that mistake. But, like, Lex, we have to stop him now. Put him away. You put him away for 17 years with a lie. Let's put him away forever with the truth. And truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. Are they still using that? Because I think that came up in season 2. But like, once again, they moved away from the old classic one is truth, justice, and American way. I want to say I haven't heard that get brought up because I remember Jim Lee talking about it once, but I don't know if I haven't really heard. Once again, I'm not the comic person, so I don't know if that's something that's still utilized in the comics. But I remember they shifted the slogan to be a better tomorrow, just so it's not as American centric as like Superman used to be. It's like because he is a worldwide hero, right? So I just don't hear that get brought up that much. But yeah, truth of it all just kind of made me go like, oh yeah, truth, justice, and a better tomorrow, or truth, justice, the American way type of thing. But anyway. Lex obviously has killed a lot of people because it's like anyone that has gotten in his way, he'll use them and then toss them aside. But he also leaves no loose ends. Everyone that could be a problem for Lex has been taken care of. And then she references Cheryl, which Bruno knows Cheryl because he's like, right, she had her military contacts and stuff like that. And it's like Lex took advantage of those. But it is a thing of he brought her back just to be like brought her back into his life just to be, you know, a honey trap for Sam. And it's revealed that him and Cheryl were a thing, or at least she thought they were, and she believed I could change him, but sadly she couldn't. It's like, oh, that is kind of messed up. It makes that it changes the whole dynamic of that relationship where you're like, oh, that's gross. Someone that loved you and believed in you would do anything for you. Maybe that's why there was a part of her that started falling for Sam, because all the good qualities she thought she could see in Lex, she saw in Sam. So maybe that what made her feel even worse about it, considering like, yo, it's effed up because he's like, yo, like kind of like pimping me out to use me as bait. Like that's effed up considering like I love you and I'd do anything for you. And then the whole conversation is like, yo, he's kind of doing the same thing with Amanda, isn't he? Because Lois has tried to tell Amanda multiple times, like, he doesn't respect you. He doesn't care about you. All Lex cares about is himself. You're not going to kind of matter in the long run. But Amanda kind of like, right, she believes like, no, things are different. Like, I love Lex and he cares for me. We had our moment last episode. It's like, yes, because you've also been useful to him. But once again, what Clark said, you know, because he was already feeling it last episode where he was like, no, he has to be in control. Like, it has to be his plan. It can't be Amanda's plan, right? So when it's all said and done, it's like this was what they needed to try and get Amanda on their side and turn her against Lex, right? They are this power duo, but their foundation is so weak. It's like, once again, it's like, I think I brought this up at the end of episode 7, I believe, or no, I think it was at the end of episode 6. A whole element of, oh, like, are they trying to be the new Lois and Clark? It's like, but you're not going to be because you guys aren't them. There's a powerful foundation of truth and good on their side, where it's just like manipulation and evil on yours. So it's not equatable, right? It's like I said, it's just a rocky foundation versus a like 2+ decade strong foundation, you know. So either way. I also love what Bruno says to Lois before she leaves, because she's like, thank you. And he's like, he was like, tell Superman I am glad that he's back, but also remind him he still has work to do. I was like, I love that line, because it's like, right, you're not the perfect superhero. You're doing the best you can, but you can still do better, you know? And I was like, yeah, there's still work to be done and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, despite everything, it's like, Bruno does believe, like, you might have some slip-ups here, but I know you have the best of intentions, and I know there's a lot you can do, especially with him being going, it's like, South Metropolis is going to need, you know, Superman to keep a better eye on things. And he does. It's something that not only his eyes have been opened, but so have Lois's. So either way, you have Lois confronting Amanda about the whole Cheryl thing, which she did not know about. So then she goes to try and find Lex to talk to him about it, and it's like, because it's like, oh, what did he offer you? Money? Like, money means nothing to Lex. When you have more money than, like, God, like, money doesn't mean anything to you. It's easy to kind of parse that out to someone, because for Lex, it isn't about money. The only thing that matters to him is control and power. Because, you know, once again, it comes from, yes, it sucks that you came from an abusive situation, but you were still a piece of shit. Like, you know, it's like, yes, your upbringing does like factor into who you become, and that should be accounted, sure, but it does not, you understand, but does not make it justifiable that you became the monster that you did. But it's like, yeah, because he had no power and control when he was younger, he's done everything he can in his life to grasp that and never feel vulnerable or weak to anyone. oh my god, is this coming at the perfect time? Like a certain show or recently, why beat around the bush, the Penguin, where it's like, I can't have any weaknesses. You know, it's kind of a similar type of deal. I mean, once again, we're talking DC supervillains and all that, right? So, but either way, Lex found out from Milton looking through the data after he enhanced the suit and stuff about, you know, obviously where Bizarro's from and everything, and ultimately it's like, oh, I know where he is. The Ali Austin situation, like, because he watched, like, I guess Lois got debriefed at the DOD after, like, her encounter with Doomsday, and so it's like, okay, so Lex knows where it is and he wants to meet up with it, which even Milton's like, cool, like, now you know where it is, you know where to stay the hell away from it, right? And it's like, no, I'm gonna go see an old friend. And then Amanda's like, wait, no, this wasn't part of the plan. And Milton's like, yeah, it doesn't take a genius to know this. This isn't your plan. You're not in control. You're not the leader here. Which is interesting considering, like, he brought that up, like, last episode too. But he's like, well, also take it from a genius. It's like, shut the hell up, Milton. But yeah, like, Lex is in Smallville to find Doomsday, and then she confronts him. Well, Amanda comes to Smallville to confront him about it, and it's like, why are you, like, what are you doing here? This is not part of the plan. He's like, yeah, but, you know, and like, once again, how vengeful he is. That's what this is. This isn't even about, like, oh, I'm gonna get Doomsday to kill Superman. I mean, for one, he would probably want to do it himself if he could. Even though you got the enhanced suit, you know, Superman's weaker. Clark even made it sure, like, he was like, oh yeah, I might be weaker, but I still beat your ass back in episode 6. He's like, oh, how's that eye of yours? It's like, well, because he still has, like, that scar on the side of his face. Well, I think that was from Clark. That might not have been, but I don't think he had that before. I think that was from Clark, their fist fight. But either way, Amanda's, well, my point before I went on that diatribe, it's like, he's here not just about killing Superman. It's about destroying this town. It's like, oh, I offered them millions. He sounds like such a baby. Like, they didn't give me what I wanted. I'm going to destroy it. It's like these toys. Like, I'm throwing it. He's like a baby. He's like, I'm a toddler throwing a tantrum. You know, it's like, oh, you didn't give me what I want. Wham, wham, wham. Like, wow, you are such a man, baby. I kind of like that. That's like, oh, like, because you're so vindictive and petty. You're literally going to destroy a town because they wouldn't bend the knee to you. The specific words he chose, too, is they chose Superman and Lois over me. It's like, oh, my God. That's deep-seated that you're like, no. You're supposed to love me, not love them. But you chose your side. You have to suffer the consequences. It's like, but even Amanda's like, whoa. You're going to destroy a whole town because of that? It's like, no, this wasn't the plan. Like, right, we destroyed Lex. We destroyed Superman and Lois's reputations. Like, that was kind of supposed to be the end of it all. But this was never going to be the end. I mean, Lois kept making the point of, look at what he did with his own daughter. He couldn't walk away because he's so angry. Like, there will always be something when it comes to himself that's always going to take precedent over his child or a man. Like, he's so rooted in his anger. Once again, it's like, what happened to him as a child has been at the root of him being who he is, but being in prison just enhanced it. And it's like, right, there's no turning back for him. Knew that the moment he refused to just be in Elizabeth's life, like, he let her, like, slip away again, and she's like, I want nothing to do with you because all you care about is revenge. So she's like, this isn't part of the plan. He's like, this isn't your plan. This is mine. I'm the one in control. And for her, it's just, she started to see Lex for who he was. I mean, she already kind of knew on some level, but it's just like her eyes had to finally be opened by Lois. But yeah, he went to go find Doomsday, who's in that tunnel trying to open the portal back to the Bizarro world. And he's like, oh, old friend. And, you know, he's comparing himself, like, all that we've both been through, the pain. It's like, you got sidetracked by Lois, but, like, you let that woman manipulate. But it's like, right, we've both. Because I also wonder, does that run a little deeper, too? Considering the person who abused him as a child was his mom, it does feel like, I mean, he's willing to toss anyone away, but I feel like from a psychological standpoint, you could see it like, oh, people you are even the most, like, resentment towards women. Like, I know someone's going to be like, oh my God, you're making, it's like, but I think from a psychological standpoint, I think you could honestly say, like, oh, like, his not hatred towards women, but, like, how ugly he can be towards women and use them in a certain way, like, whether it's a Cheryl, whether it's Amanda, but also like his resentment towards Lois. Like I said, I feel like at this point he might hate Lois more than he hates Superman, which is kind of wild to say. I think truth be told, he hates them equally because they're just as much of an issue. But it does seem like because she's the one without powers, he feels like he pokes and prods like Lois the most. I mean, to be fair, she's the one that reported stuff and got him locked up. So still. Either way, he's able to use the I think those screws that Milton had put in so they could pierce and explode in Doomsday's heart. Like, right, let's finish the process of completing you. And now Clark has to duke it out with Doomsday in the middle of town, and obviously looking even more like the Doomsday with like they were already growing out, but I think this most recent death ended up like making stuff spike out of him even more, but Lois's words can't reach him. So while Clark's duking it out with him, John and Jordan are going around helping everyone. I was like, I love that moment where Miss May or Miss Vicky, who works at the diner, Jordan helping her through her panic attack. He's like, okay, he freezes a cup. He's like, so holding on to something cold can like help with a panic attack. Help with me. He's like, breathe in, breathe out. He's like, it's okay. It's don't like kind of making everything come full circle because like obviously we know like that was kind of anxiety and stuff like that, and so, like I don't know if it's like social anxiety. I can never remember the thing that Jordan has that he was diagnosed with. But him having that moment, just being like, it's okay. He's like, all right, close your eyes, because he heard his dad and Doomsday coming. So he's like, right, just like close your eyes and focus, and Then you have John helping out with a car was coming towards Denise and them, and he stopped it. He's like, you're okay, everyone get out. And then Lex is nearby. He could leave at any moment, but he's like, no, this time I'm going to stay behind. I'm going to watch Superman die again, and I'm going to make sure I stay here and when he dies. And so we get to the end of the episode, and Clark's getting beat up, and it's just like everyone in the family's panicked because it's like, no, this can't be happening again. And Clark's looking at them, and he's just like, I want you guys to know I love you, and and just in that moment, Doomsday grabs him and title card. You're just like, fuck. It's like hell of a way to end this penultimate episode. Obviously, the next episode is the series finale. Like, Clark's gonna be okay, but this might be like a 3v1, I think. I'm so curious to see how this all like plays out, because I feel like it's got to be like Jordan and Jonathan plus Clark, or maybe it's just gonna be that human spirit thing of my family's here. Like I was motivated and I was pushed in that moment, thinking about my family when I first fought Doomsday, continuing my fight with Doomsday at the beginning of the season. But at the end of the day, it still wasn't enough. Now it's a situation of, no, like, I'm even more like, now it's like happening even more publicly. Like, his body was tossed around, but now it's like, no, the fight's in the middle of the street, so it's going to be even more public than his death was. So how this all plays out, how this plays out with Lex, is actually interesting. It's not a one-to-one, even though there was a Bizarro situation in Supergirl. It was in season 1, but they never circled back to it. They did a version of the Red Son storyline, the Red Daughter storyline, and they kind of mixed a little bit of this into that, funny enough. I didn't even think about that till now. Like, Lex watching as Doomsday and Superman are duking it out. In Supergirl, there was the Red Daughter storyline. There was like a copy of Kara that grew up in like Moscow, and then Lex found her and took her under his wing, kind of similar to the Lex and Doomsday relationship here. So very, very similarly. I wonder will it end the same way too? Because, spoilers, Lex in Supergirl ends up killing that other Kara, despite using her and making her think like, oh, we're friends. But the moment she kind of found out the truth about you, it's like, because even Milton was like, yeah, that thing can't be killed, and Lex was like, yeah, I won't be so sure about that. So I think we would, like, that's why I'm like, how much of this is meant to be like a parallel, or just that happened by accident? I was like, it's just funny to think about that. It's just like, yeah, because let's also not forget, how did that season end? He came back, but that was season 4. That was season 4. That ended with Lex getting killed. It was it was actually Lena that ended up killing him, but he ended up coming back in the grand scheme of things, but still. So I'm wondering, will this end with him dead? Probably not. Like, I think he will rot in prison. I was about to say not unless Doomsday ends up killing him, but I'm curious to see how this ends, like how they deal with the Doomsday situation. They will probably have to unite all three sons. I mean, sons of Krypton in a lot of ways, but the last son of Krypton and his sons will have to work together to kill Doomsday, maybe toss him into the sun type of thing. But then there's also the Lex of it. Also, I'm just so curious to see how they ultimately wrap this series up. Once again, it's sad that we're here. This is the end, but I'm also so excited to see how it ends because this show has just been so goddamn good. Goddamn great and fantastic. It's so fucking good. Okay, I'm gonna stop now. But yeah. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.